Hey everyone, Dan here. Today we're going to take a look at the charts for eBay and ExxonMobil. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And let's dive right in. So we're taking a little bit of a longer view of these stocks today. I see some interesting things in the chart that might be good opportunities for investing or longer swing trades. And so we're going to look at the 6-month 4-hour chart, and I'll sort of show you what it's looking like to me, and then you can kind of synthesize that with your own information, things that you look up yourself, and decide if there might be a trade here for you or not. So we're going to go through and sort of like chart out, and then we'll delete the charts and we will take a look at the indicators, see what the indicators are saying. So the first thing that stands out to me with eBay is essentially this channel that it's in, and we have to lop off some of this, but I think that that's still okay. We're definitely capturing still 90% or more of this price activity. I'm sure it's well over 90, but we lop off a little bit at the bottom, but that's relatively stable, like from all the way back here. And then we lop off this big chunk at the top, which was this big push that it had up in February. But since then it has made some run-ups and has tested out at this level here. So being that briefly held there and then was support over that big push up, I feel pretty okay putting the channel top there. And in any case, it's always like a more conservative approach to put your channel top a little bit lower versus up higher, so that when you do go to take profit in the channel, you're not looking for an extended area that it's not really going to anyway. So this is the channel that I see, and obviously it's toward the bottom of the channel right now, so that opens up a good bottom-ish of the channel area to buy into. A couple of other things that I see are like an interesting kind of area. Where is it? Right around here, where there's like some previous resistance points and then a ton of support, and now we have pushed over that. So I think this 57 level for the period of time in which it remains bottom of the channel-ish should give us a good potential bounce zone if it dips back down to that area. And if not, if it came down here today, for example, and broke through, we would look for it to just hold the bottom of the channel. If it does happen to fall out of the channel, that'd be the first place where I would look for it to hold and then try to make a run back into the channel. So it could try to do the same thing that it did here, break the channel and then re-enter on the downside. So even if this channel breaks, that's what I would be looking for. That 57, once it is out of the channel, is going to be kind of like my important area to watch. So I'm going to kind of make it a cautionary zone for the time being, because I think it'll be out of that channel in a couple of weeks here, and so it'll be good to watch it at that point. The other thing, we take a look in here. There, you see like a gap here that was filled. So as there are gaps that get exposed, I would look for eBay to fill them. It's kind of unfortunate that this like steep drop didn't create a gap at all, so we don't necessarily have one to play off of there. But I keep an eye out for that. This should be another really good level with all of this resistance previously, and then support prior to that, and then support pretty recently. I would look for that $60 level as like a really solid initial price target, if you wanted to jump out relatively quickly after just a couple of dollars of change in the price. And then 64 is the next logical place in my opinion. But other than that, if we are making our way up this channel, then I would just tend to say, the way that I would play it is to dip by toward the bottom of the channel and then take profit toward the top of the channel. And it's done a pretty good job extending from bottom to top since it's been in the channel. but there's periods around like here, for example, where it was kind of struggling for a little bit, where you could have started to trim out and lock in some profit as it was getting toward the top half of the channel, just in case it does sort of like one of these things where it comes back down. That could have given you an opportunity to take some profit here and then still dip by toward the bottom of the channel when you saw this like double bottom forming here. But that's what I would look for in eBay. I think that this area where it's at right now, where it kind of got pushed off of today, makes sense with this previous support there. It obviously had a little stickiness there when it was it had some resistance that it turned to support. So makes sense that it's hitting resistance there again. But this could sort of potentially bring in a decent opportunity to dip by it. But that's what I see on the chart itself for eBay. Let's take a look at the indicators. And let's back ourselves back out to the 6 months so that we take in all of the price action that we want for these indicators. And let's start with the MAs. So the MAs, slightly bearish so like short-term bullish, because this 12 is crossed over the 20, and it's looking like they're going to cross over the 50. So that would be short-term bullish. Sort of like longer-term, slightly bearish with the 180. Currently sitting at that $60 level, which was the one that we said, could be the first initial kind of price target there. And so if we can get sort of some resistance turning to support there, that'll give me a really good feeling, especially as it has an up channel to work off of as well. On the RSI, it's about mid-range, so nothing really that interesting here. You see stuff like this that, where the price here was about 56.85 and then made a run up to like mid-range almost on the RSI, and moved a couple of bucks. But I mean, it doesn't appear to me to be a big like RSI follower. Like that, I don't know that there's a big advantage to reading the RSI on this one. A nice bullish crossover here, and that is looking to hold up pretty well. Definitely increasing on the bullish momentum. Unfortunately, also increasing on the bearish momentum. So you're going to have to see if this crossover holds, and if it does dip back down, which it obviously will, does it make a higher low on the MACD? So that would mean that the bearish momentum is trailing off and could give a better foothold on the bullish side for bigger pushes up, hopefully get back into that mid 65 range. Let's take a look real quick at the volume as of late. Obviously there was this big sell volume in a couple of spots, but I mean, I think this one I'm pretty confident was one of those days where the market just turned against most everybody. I don't recall if this like beginning of February that might have been more of a reaction to that huge run up and then a bunch of people taking profit. But if you sort of like draw a line here toward the top area of the volume and see what's mostly poking over the top of that line, it's mostly green bars that are popping over the top. So I would say overall pretty bullish sentiment. I mean, that's what you would expect with an up channel, but it's making its way up the channel by way of more buy volume, which is additionally what you want to see, sort of proving that like there's not just small moves that are causing the price to come up, but there's a lot of buying activity that's pushing the price higher and higher systematically. All right, so I think that's what eBay looks like in my opinion. Let's scoot over to ExxonMobil. We got our 6 month here as well. So Exxon, a couple of things. We'll start off with the drawings again. I see a pretty similar kind of channel here that I'd be looking for. We're going to lop off the top again and sort of like match up these tops here. And so this up channel is also looking pretty good. Been in it for the entirety of this chart, so 6 months plus. And right now is like mid-range on the channel, so it'll be interesting to see if it provides another dip buying opportunity, or if this is a chance for it to run up toward the top of the channel and do a retest of the top. I do see some pretty far down gaps here that I would watch out for. I went back and looked historically, and I won't do it because I know it can be kind of nauseating when I scroll back quickly through charts and look for things. But ExxonMobil is quite a mixed bag of gap fills. It seems to be, from just a cursory glance that I did before deciding to look at Exxon for the video today, it kind of looks like about a half and half kind of situation. So a lot of times it'll leave the gap open and doesn't fill it, and a lot of times it will fill it. But it's hard to know when it does fill it, that sort of inconsistently, if it's just a matter of time goes on and the price fluctuates. But it wasn't necessarily doing it in order to fill a gap. I mean, also, this gap was way back in February, and now we're getting, I guess, pretty soon toward the middle of May. And so that's a long time. That's where it's sort of those things feel a little sketchy to me, where it's oh, it came down to fill the gap, but the gap is months and months old. And it's sort of well, yeah, eventually the prices just fluctuate. So a lot of things get filled. So I wouldn't worry too much for that. What I would maybe do is just kind of put yourself a couple of areas here, so that as you lose sight of the gap, you can sort of be reminded oh, okay, there is this potential that it comes down into the low 50s to fill those gaps. And if it does, it could be a really good opportunity to look for some dip buys, with the understanding that it may be coming down to fill the gap. Obviously, it would have broken the channel by that point, but it might bounce there because of the gap then being filled. So I would take a look at that, and then, yeah, essentially play this channel, right? Because it's pretty consistently bottom to the top, and now bottom. So now is it going to run up straight to the top is the question. It has definitely done a lot of that, where it runs up, at least to this would have been well over halfway up the channel, right? So so wouldn't be surprised if we stretch up toward that 65, 66 area, and make a run for it there. I would expect that there's going to be some stickiness, well, right about where it is actually, but in this entire zone right here, as it tries to push above all of that previous activity. So I would take a look. Yeah. See what it does when it's in this box would be pretty interesting. Does it come back down and give another dip buy, and it's going to need another attempt? Essentially, this box is going to need to get more toward the bottom of the channel for it to have enough oomph and momentum to break past that and sort of start to shadow these previous highs. All right, so that is the chart. Let's take a look at the MAs. Reset ourselves. And let's start with the MAs again. So MA is looking nice and bullish. So we have bullish crosses on everything. So 12 cross over the 20, and both of them cross over the 50, and then all three of them have crossed over the 180. So a nice bullish formation here, giving it a lot of potential push to get past that 62.55 and establish above it. So beautiful, beautiful looking chart there. On the RSI side, again, this is following this up a little bit, but I actually think, the channel and even the structure of the MAs is probably going to be a bit more consistent than trying to trade off of the RSI. But it is very high right now. So that's another thing to look for. Is it going to get pushed off of that box that we just drew in white? Sort of also because it's getting so overbought. MACD getting also very high. So this would be maybe the thing to watch out for. This push sort of dwindles. It was growing bullish momentum here, but this would be a pretty low push on the histogram on the bullish side. So, it would definitely be losing bullish momentum there. And these were very, very steep, very high reaches on the MACD line, which, right now it's curling down toward the signal, so looking like it might have a bit of a bearish crossover there and come down a little bit. So I would maybe look really strongly as the RSI and the MACD might be indicating that it's going to come down for a bottom of the channel test, which might give sort of like a dip buying opportunity. And then it's still, if it does bounce off of that and tries to work its way back up, it's going to have to contend with that white box that we drew in. So I would keep a good eye on that. So if we lop off a bunch of the tops here and just sort of like see what is above this like high volume line, it's pretty mixed bag. So obviously the highest of the highs are typically on the green buy side of things. So some good bullish volume coming in, but there still is a lot of selling volume going on in the market for ExxonMobil, at least over the past 6 months. I think there have typically been, you should look into this more because I'm just sort of speaking from things that I recall that I may have heard. So who knows how well I'm remembering, but I think there was a lot of folks who thought with the new administration coming in that there would be like a significant step away from companies that engage with anything sort of like fossil fuel related, and that these clean energy companies would sort of like get pumped up pretty strongly. But I think that pump up pretty strongly on the clean energy side has not really happened. If you look at things like F-Cell or Plug or Workhorse, things like that, and the EV market in general has like really struggled. So that's sort of like proved out to be the opposite, which is interesting. And then conversely, ExxonMobil has nearly doubled in price from that 33.60 mark that you see in the lower left on the chart. So kind of interesting. That's why speculation is speculation, because a lot of times it's like, oh, this person's in office now, they're probably going to do this, and that's probably going to do that in the market. And a lot of times it's just too many layers removed for that thing to actually prove out. All right, so there's my rants, but hopefully those charts and the MAs were helpful, gave you some ideas on how you might be able to trade these two tickers in the coming days or weeks or months. And I appreciate you watching. I will see you all in the next video.